Done it?
You ready? You gotta do your clap. Hi guys, and welcome back to our channel. Today we're going to talk about what it's like to be a female in the kitchen. Do you want to start off?
Sure. So I'll start off with how I started in kitchens and how I got my foot into cooking. I think like many people, cooking is a strong part of my family, and I think food in general brings family together, and so I spent a lot of time cooking in the kitchen with my grandma and learning the foundations there and trying to mimic what she was cooking, which led to a lot of horrible meals and a lot of torture for my mum and my sisters. But it fed my curiosity, and as the years went by, I kind of got slightly better to a point where it became quite obsessive.
Still are.
Yeah, I mean, I watch cooking videos all day, every day. I think about cooking all day, every day. It doesn't stop. It's actually sometimes probably quite painful because I can spend a good 6 hours just scrolling through YouTube, watching videos.
Yeah.
And then I'll go and cook, and then I'll repeat. And sometimes I cook for no particular reason. Like I don't even want to eat it. I just put it in the fridge.
But then talk more about how did you get into, like, how did all this lead into your first job?
Yeah, so I graduated from university when I was 21 with a degree in American Studies, which is not relevant to cooking at all, but the obsession grew so much that I got to a point where I was like, okay, either I go into a kind of average job, or I apply for one this was like the thinking. I applied for one kitchen only, nothing crazy, just somewhere that I like to eat, which at the time was at the Breakfast Club. It was kind of, yeah, it was in at that point. And if I get into that kitchen, I won't look back. And 4 years later, that's basically where I am now, and that was how I got my first door into the kitchen.
Yeah.
And how about you, Kenny? Because I think you had a much more formal introduction into cooking, as in
I guess.
you were more trained.
Oh yeah.
I learned on the job.
But I also would say that, much like yourself, it starts, or for me, it also started with the family. My dad is a baker, so I was brought up in Denmark. Dad is a baker and has been pretty much his whole life. So there was always food around, and then my mom just loved making food for the family. So there was always food, and it started with, as a young kid, maybe 9, 10, I started to cook one meal every now and again for the family. And then getting into teenage years, having to figure out what to become. It's quite difficult. So I thought, okay, Mom said I couldn't be a baker because she thought that the lifestyle just wasn't suited for myself.
Being a chef was better.
Well, at least, yeah, that's kind of how I came about it, because I thought, well, I like the idea of food, but maybe from another angle. So I went straight into chef college in Denmark, which is 4 years, but most of those 4 years, it's just practical.
How did you get to the kind of conclude? So when you were saying you were thinking about what you wanted to be when you were a teenager,
yes.
How did you come to that decision?
It was fairly easy. I think I wanted to do something with food, and then when Mom said, don't be a baker, I thought, well, that I could only see one sort of way left. Mm-hmm. And then I was quite lucky at the time when I went to college. There was two ways to go. You could become your traditional chefs, or you could become a chef, but on an international, because they had contacts with London and various other places. And I thought, well, it would be nice to leave the country.
Right.
Hence how I started that, got my practical placement at the Mandarin. Wicked experience. Yeah. Went through all of it, learned how to cook lobsters, langoustines, scallops, all these sort of things. I absolutely loved it. And then I've kind of been in the kitchen ever since, to be honest. I've tried different kitchens, fast going kitchen, big kitchens, small kitchens, hotels.
And just so we can get an idea of where we both are, how many years have you been in the kitchen now, professional kitchens?
Oh, since 2009. 11 years. Yeah.
Okay, so 11 years. And so I'm 25 now, so that's 4 years for me.
Yeah.
So it's a big difference, and a big difference in experience.
Definitely.
And also kind of places in which we have worked, and quality of places. I think I've worked in very casual settings.
Yeah.
Which are a bit rough and ready and a bit rugged and less formal, which has its pros and its cons. can be very fun.
Yeah.
But can be
a bit more leeway though. But that's the thing though.
More leeway, but maybe also a harder way to actually learn technical skills.
True. Versus, because touching on that, because when I was starting out at the 5-star hotel, they're very rigid with standards and quality.
Yeah.
So therefore, you would learn, I guess, the techniques and in all these various ways.
So something we can talk about is, do you think it's worth going to college? Because I think that there's a big debate. I think education in Denmark is free.
Yeah.
Whereas in some countries, let's say in America, so we're in England, so you can go to catering college for free, or you can get on an apprenticeship. But in some places, like in America, it's very expensive.
Yeah.
Do you feel it's worth it, or do you feel the working on the job route?
I think that's a very good question. I kind of feel like you go down both ways, but you'd have to be tailored or suited more to one to another. I felt if you are a very creative individual, you know what you want, and you're willing to play the waiting game as well as, kind of eagering yourself forward, but learning and really just understanding what environment you're in and kind of taking advantage of it. And if you want to get to like head chef and sous chef, I would definitely say skip the school and really do your work, but work hard, and don't be afraid to do stages. So stages are where you go to other restaurants and you simply just ask them if you can work for them for free that one day. And what you do is you get to learn other methods, other way of setting up a section, other way of running a section. And these are awesome skills that you can add to yourself without even having to pay for them. Yeah. And all you do is you call up, you ask, and if they say yes, great. Some do say no because they don't want to share their secrets, or they don't want to perhaps invest in you for that short amount of time. But in return, you get a meal and you get to have a little short relationship with these individual people. Yeah. So I think that's a nice way. And then there are some really good culinary schools out there.
Yeah.
I won't say anything bad about those. If you do go through those, you're also going to be awesome. But again, you have to be that person that really wants it.
And I think also when you're young, say you're 18, you're fresh out of high school, and you are used to that kind of structure that education gives you, if you want to maintain that structure and you want to maintain your education, then college can be that for you. Whereas for myself, I had just graduated from university, and the thought of continuing education even further, I was sick of it at that point, and I was ready for something new and very challenging. And I think I needed that real push into the deep end. Granted, I'm not saying I went totally fresh. I didn't. I had since I had been cooking since I was very young. I'd done a lot of self-education, was self-taught. Like I had, I think, decent-ish knife skills to kind of get going. Yeah. Decent understanding of, European cooking. I could make a bechamel and a sauce, and could chop an onion. I think these are things people should know anyways, but, if you're coming in at the bottom of a kitchen, those are things you should know regardless of whether you went to school or not. But like we said, if you want that structure, then I think school is a perfect way. Definitely. A nice structure.
And also the main reason why we're making this particular video is because there's not enough women out there.
Yeah.
There is not enough women out there, and chefing can be amazing. It really, for me personally, I think it's the best thing I've ever done, because we were talking about how if you were a young person and you wanted to get into it, maybe even just for a short amount of time, like you can't see yourself being a sous chef or a head chef, that is fine. But the life skill that you get in this short amount of time, it's almost like somebody's taken you and they've just shaken you and they've given you all these amazing skills. Because you learn to be organized. You learn to think under pressure. You learn to delegate. You learn to all these managerial skills. Like if you really want something, and it's almost like it's sink or swim. It feels like that sometimes.
Yeah, it does. And especially at the beginning, I think most people get a slight culture shock.
Yes.
You have a culture shock because the work ethic is so strong. It's so demanding.
Yes.
That really, if you don't keep paddling,
yes,
you really do sink.
and check in with yourself, because you really, you can't lie to yourself.
Yeah.
You finish a shift today, maybe at 9, maybe at 10 if you're lucky, and then you got to be back tomorrow for 8 o'clock, Do you go out and have a little drink, or do you go home and sleep, make sure you're rested?
That's actually quite a new idea, that you finish at 9, 10, starting,
Versus before,
where I think many chefs do burn out quite easily.
Yeah.
But I think something, another positive, so if we flip this negative to a positive, I think a lot of us learn how to read ourselves, and I think that that's a vital life skill, to understand, how am I feeling, how's my body. And I think as you get older, you really care about those aspects of your well-being more, because we do all crash, we do all burn.
That's it.
and it's trying to figure out, how do I regulate my energy and my health. So I think that if you flip a negative to a positive, this job really does make you in tune with yourself, because it is so physically demanding, emotionally demanding.
But then, having said that,
yeah.
Let's say we've got a young lady who wants to be a chef.
Yeah.
Your advice, where would she start? How would she start?
At home. I think that's the first thing. Make sure you have just your basic skills really keyed in.
Really have fun with it, especially if you're at home, because it's a nice, relaxed atmosphere.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And cook freely. Cook for fun. Don't worry about cooking rubbish food. I think at the beginning we all cook. I think even now, sometimes I cook some very questionable things. I'm not saying that they're wrong, because I would hope now I have some a better palate and some skills. But even now, sometimes I just freestyle. I'm just like, I don't know what this is.
Yeah.
And if it's going to be good, but just wing it, enjoy it. Cook the things you enjoy.
Yeah.
And when you can get those things right, then start to explore some newer flavors, newer things.
That's it.
Don't be scared.
Almost cook it to death. Cook it so many times, you perfected it, and then now you're bored with it. You move on to the next. And then my advice would be, from there, once you're confident, let's say you're a young individual, you've practiced at home, you've cooked for your whole family, you've done it several times, and now you feel like you're ready for the next step, you want the next pressure. I would say, if there's a restaurant or a pub nearby, offer your help for a couple of hours. And then if that excites you, then the next step will be to go for a restaurant or that you maybe ate at yourself or with your family and you really enjoy, and then put your CV in there.
Yeah. So that's really, I think that's really crucial, and it's what I did, which is I chose a place that I enjoyed to eat at that time, and it was a good motivation for me. I would say as you get more experience, maybe you don't want to cook at places you enjoy to eat at, because
no, that's it.
It does ruin. But
then you do get discount though. Like if you work somewhere and you like eating.
I don't like to get sick of the food. I like to I feel like when you work there, you start to get a bit sick of the food. But when you're young, go somewhere that you do enjoy eating, because then you're going to feel more motivated to want to learn and to know what's going on. You feel more invested, you invest yourself deeper into the team.
I would say don't be a victim of the whole must work somewhere 2 years, 3 years. When you're young, commit yourself to 1 year, really get to work on all the different sections if there are more than a couple sections. And then once you've nailed that, move on to the next one, because every kitchen would do something slightly different. Although we all work within the classics, so like you mentioned, the bechamel, the roux, the stocks and so on, and the sauces, and there'd still be different techniques or a different way of setting up or running, or even different way of talking to other people, learning how to interact with people, to learn how to delegate your jobs. You learn how to talk to people. There's so many things.
Yeah, I mean, I remember in my beginning years, I think I changed kitchens 3-4 times, like every 6 months, not even every year, which I don't recommend, because I do think you should still dig your feet into a kitchen just to get the roots of it. But I think don't feel tied down. It's all about learning, and every change you make is just a new potential for growth. At some point, when you do feel your foundation is set and you have something to give to somewhere and a place that you really like, you found your team, you found your people, then stick with it, because then you can really start to grow.
But also the beauty of that, when you do stick with it, is that after a certain amount of time, your head chef might move on, and then because you like their style of cooking, you would follow them onto another adventure.
Yeah.
But ultimately, once you build your foundation, whether you've discovered that you want to be a pastry chef instead of maybe a grill chef, or just an all-rounder, really learn to understand the things that makes you tick. And then once you've got that, honestly, just go with it.
Yeah. And that includes the types of cuisine as well.
Yes.
Don't just stick with French. If Asian excites you, try some Asian, Middle Eastern, jump around to different restaurants and find what it is that you really like. And if you can, try and go to other countries. Like I felt really fortunate in 2011. We took off to Australia. My husband and I, we packed our bags and we went. Yeah. We wanted to really try. A lot of chefs had talked about how amazing Australia was, how diverse, and even just the paycheck. So I thought, well, why not? And we went. We went to Melbourne. It was the best experience ever. It's a whole different way of cooking. Although cooking within cooking is the same, but there's just so many layers. It's amazing. Yeah, totally. And if you're not able to travel, taste as much. If you're lucky enough to be in a big city like we are in London, taste as many different cuisines, because a lot of people migrate to big cities and are sharing their food cultures within the city. So taste as much stuff as possible if unable to travel, but where possible to travel, do. And
definitely,
we're fortunate enough as chefs that we don't need to be as glued to a particular job. You can basically pick up your skills and go anywhere in the world.
Yes.
So that's one of the upsides of the job, and a good reason to be a chef.
Right. On that note, that's it.
Let's call it a day.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, guys. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Take care.
Bye.
Chipwa! This is getting easier and easier.